Good morning, kids. I'm making your great-grandmother's coffee cake this morning. So you put 2 cups of whole milk into this pot and let it warm on medium till it gets a little skim on top. Then take it off the heat and you put it off the heat. Add 2 good size tablespoons of Crisco, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 3/4 of a cup of sugar, maybe a little bit more. And you let that dissolve in there, and then you let it be. While you're doing this, I'm doing a double batch today, so you warm cups and you put a 1/4 cup of warm water into it after you've warmed the cup, and then you add a tablespoon of yeast into each cup. So you need 2 of them for a single batch, which will make 2 coffee cakes, but I'm making 4, so we have them for Christmas too. So let that sit. I cover them so it stays warm under there like this, and just let it be until the milk has cooled. Once this milk has cooled, then you will add 2 large beaten eggs and about 4 to 6 cups of sifted flour and 2 tablespoons of vanilla. You mix that together, then you add the yeast, and then you add enough flour until you can turn it out on a board. So once you turn it out on the board, then you work the flour into it, and then you put it in a bowl. You have to have glass bowls, and I put a little Crisco in the bowl so it doesn't stick. I haven't done that yet, but I will. And then once the bread mixture is ready to put into the bowls, then you heat your oven to 200 and turn it off so it's nice and not baking warm, but just warm in your oven. And you'll let it rise in there. You cover it with a kitchen towel. I'll show you later, but you let it rise for about an hour, and then you will punch it down. So I will show you this later. Now you will take 2 large eggs, put them in a bowl, and beat them and get them ready to put into the warm milk. You need this milk warm, not hot, so the eggs don't curdle in there. Now you will take your sifter and put your flour in here and start sifting it into the milk. Now I have my flour sifted into the cooled but still warm milk, and you'll start mixing it in. You're going to have to add more flour. As you can see now, the milk with adding the flour is starting to get thicker. So we're going to add the beaten egg and the yeast next. So now I will pour the egg mixture into the coffee cake mixture, and I'll scrape that out with a rubber spatula. Now you'll mix the egg mixture in. Now I'm going to add the yeast. Now your yeast has been proofing underneath that little towel, so it's built up and it's grown. So now you can put it into the flour mixture. I have all of my yeast mixture in here, and I used a rubber spatula to get all of the yeast, the proofed yeast, out of the cups. So now you'll mix this in, and you'll add more flour and your vanilla. I have my oven started at 200. I don't think you can see that, but I've got my oven started at 200, and I will shut it off here in just a minute so it will be warm in there when I put the bowls of coffee cake in to proof. So the other thing is, in the old days, they used to put warm water, like a tea kettle in there, and prop the tea kettle opening open so the warm steam would keep the oven warm. But I have found just putting it on 200 in between each time it needs to proof works just as well. Now I will add 2 teaspoons of vanilla to the bread mix. Prepare your floured board to turn your mixture out onto. But before you do that, you take Crisco and put it in the bowls so the bread part won't stick to it when it's rising. And I'm almost ready with this to turn out onto the board, because it's just, I'm going to mix this in and then it will be enough so you can turn it and work it on your floured board before you put it in the oven to proof. So now I have enough flour mixed in so I can turn it out onto my floured board. So it's only been an hour and this stuff is starting to fall out of the bowl already, so I'm going to punch it down early. So take off the covers easily and then I'll show you. So this is how it looks when it's doubled in size. So now you're just going to go like this and punch it down. And I'm warming the oven up again. And once the oven is warmed up again to 200, I will shut it off, cover these back up, and let them rise again. Okay, so cover them back up like this. They will go back in the oven for 45 minutes. The oven is almost warmed up and it says to let them rise another 45 minutes to an hour. But as fast as this has been rising, it'll probably only take 45 minutes, maybe less. So keep checking it so it's not going all over your oven. I did put a foil down in the bottom now, so in case things start falling out. My oven just warmed up, so now I will put the bread back into the oven. So when you start to make the coffee cake, I'll show you that in a little bit, but the butter has to be soft enough to spread it onto the coffee cake when you put the butter, brown sugar, cinnamon onto it. And I am using the Irish butter, and it didn't, I let it out overnight on a plate, but it still was a little hard this morning. So I took a 4-cup measuring cup, put it in the microwave with water in it, and let it boil for about 6 minutes, not full, halfway. Dump the water out and then tip this over onto the butter, and now it's going to be spreadable. It's been 45 minutes. Oh boy. And it's needs to come out. So it did its rising. Oops, there comes another piece. So now you uncover it and put it on a floured board and cover it with the bowl and let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes. So now I am letting it rest on the counter covered by the bowls for 15 minutes. Okay, the 15-minute timer is done. Now it's time to uncover and start rolling these out. So now you divide the bowl into 2 and start rolling it out. And I'll put the other part back in the bowl and cover it. Next, you grease your pans so they're ready once you roll this out, and put brown sugar, cinnamon, and butter on the coffee cake. So then your pans are ready when you start cutting it. Now I have rolled it out. Now I will add the butter, cinnamon, and brown sugar. So now I have it buttered. Next is cinnamon, and then the brown sugar. Now the cinnamon is on it. So next will be the brown sugar. So now I have the butter, cinnamon, and brown sugar on it. And now I will have to roll it up and then cut it into slices to put into the cake pans. So this is how I'm rolling it up, and you do it as tight as you can without ripping the coffee cake dough. I have it all rolled up, and I will cut it into little sections and get it into the pans that are prepared for the coffee cake to go in. Now I have it cut up, and I'm going to start placing it in the pans. And you want to do seam side in so the coffee cake doesn't roll out easily. So where the bottom seam is, like this, you'll put that to the inside. So now I have this portion in. Now I have to roll the other side. Now I have the coffee cake ready to go in the oven. I've got my oven warmed up. It's got to rise again. So you cover it with your towels once more in the oven. So I have the coffee cake in the oven, towels covered, and you do it for about 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll see. And yes, I have a mess to clean up now from the flour. After the 45 minutes to an hour, you uncover, pull them out, let the oven heat up to 350, and then put them back in. Oven is heated up to 350, and they're in the oven to bake for about, it says to bake for about 50 minutes. I'm going to do 40 minutes and check them. Then I take them out of the oven, and I take a butter knife and go around the edges so it doesn't stick to the pan, and you'll be able to get them out. You want to make sure it's a little soft underneath but not really gooey. Okay, that's it until they cool, and then we'll frost them. So as I'm taking them out of the pan, sometimes this has to be put back in. It gets a little sticky, and I tip them over this way. And now I'm going to put another piece of parchment on top and flip it so it's right sides up like this one. Now I have them all out of the pans, the right side up, and they will cool now. I put wire rack under these, and then we will frost them when they're cool. So I'm getting ready to make the frosting. I use powdered sugar, white powdered sugar, butter, and cream cheese. And then I'll start mixing it and add whole milk, a little bit of salt. I'm going to just sprinkle a little salt in there, just a touch. And then you're going to have to add vanilla too. So I'm going to add vanilla now. Because I'm doing more coffee cakes than normal, because I did a double batch, I had to add more powdered sugar. Maybe a little touch more of the milk. Just a touch, because it goes a long way. And just that little drop of milk helped to make it just the consistency that we want. So it was like 2 capfuls of vanilla and then another little drop of milk with extra 10x sugar, powdered sugar. And then just let it run for a bit, and then you'll be ready to frost your coffee cakes. And then add crushed walnuts to the top if you would like, or pecans, whichever you prefer, or none. So now I have the coffee cakes frosted, and now I'm going to start adding the chopped nuts and then let them sit so the icing dries a bit. Now I have them frosted and ready to eat for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I hope one day my granddaughters will make this recipe for their families. Love, Oma.